of January 2021, and this is the Senate Education, Finance, and Policy Committee. Today, members, we have something I've been obsessed with for a couple of years, and so as you will learn, so have others. There's a particular passion here for me in this issue. To be interesting testimony. If some of you are not familiar with this issue, you will be by the end of this hearing. And I hope that I'll just preface also by saying this should not be a partisan issue. I believe this is something we can all agree on. I will probably have legislation later. Senator Swedinsky has a little piece of legislation we can address as well when in a couple of weeks when we bring it up. This in no way should be partisan. Some of these stories are not going to be very comfortable at the end. They were very hard for me when I first heard them, and I'm sure you'll feel the same way. I got just a couple things. So this is going to be about mental health in general, but social digital media specifically. I used to say social media. That's a particular piece of digital media as live more, screen less, and others will talk about as we go on. We understand there's a lot of causes for mental health problems, but this is a big one for our kids. We've always had some challenges, but this is big for our kids. And the data and the science is clear on that. We'll hear as we talk about this more. So not only has social media made the mental health issue more difficult, but obviously an issue we won't talk about today is our kids need to be back in school as well. I believe if we address those two things smartly and assertively, we will go a long way in addressing the problems of mental health and the challenges some of our children are facing. This is as close to a public health crisis as you can get as well. When you look and see the numbers and the data, it is stunning. It is not even, it's not really even a question anymore about what this stuff is doing to the minds. What is a challenge for us as members and legislators and people in the community is informing people of the problem, the challenge, and finding a solution for it. I will make an indictment here. I will indict the entire social media Silicon Valley people, what they have done. If you read the data and you read what they say, people who have left that industry have admitted they would deliberately design products to addict people to monetize their attention. These super wealthy organizations don't pay any taxes in the state of Minnesota. They don't pay any fees. They've simply preyed upon our citizens and our kids, and they're paying a terrible price for it across all spectrums of society. So that is my indictment to start. It's a heavy thing, but I think this is the right topic for all of us, both sides of the aisle, to take on and attack directly to solve this problem. So with that, I will be quiet until the very end. Now we have several testifiers in the first group. We're going to ask to hold questions again, members and comments. The first group will be, it's going to be live more, screen less, and then they have some students and others that are going to have testimony. And after we get done with that group, then we will ask questions, have you bring up your questions or comments if you have some for them. And then we'll have a video. You might see it in your agenda if you have it. And then a couple more. At the very end, we're going to have Shannon Lee and Janet. So with that, members, thank you for indulging me for a couple minutes. I will, is Marie Hampton, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Yeah, Thank you.
Just for the record still, tell us who you are and who you're with, okay?
Okay, thank you so much for that poignant introduction, Senator Chamberlain. Good afternoon, Senator Chamberlain and the members of the committee. My name is Marie Hampton. Thank you for allowing my partner, Catherine, and I to share our expertise as it relates to social media and mental health of young people. So we are Live More, Screen Less, a new Minnesota nonprofit with a mission to promote and advocate digital well-being for and with young people through a comprehensive and collaborative community approach. We're really pleased to spend time with you this afternoon to share some research, stories, the voices of our Youth Council, and key stakeholders from Faribault, Silver Bay, and the metro area, and to hear from parents Janet and Shannon. As co-founder of Live More, I bring a public health and youth development perspective to our work. Prior to creating Live More, I was a health educator at Navajo Community College in Arizona and health promotion director at the U of M Boynton Health Service, where I led peer education programming. So I bring these experiences, health promotion in rural and urban settings, to the innovative work of Live More Screen Less, an organization that lies at the intersection of public health and education. So I would like to take a few minutes to address the research on the impact of screens on mental health. And then Catherine will share some stories and some more information about our organization. We are wired for human connection. Healthy relationships and social connection are critical to mental health and well-being. As you likely know, the trends in mental health of Minnesota's young people are in decline. The 2019 Minnesota Student Survey showed more Minnesota students than ever reporting long-term mental health, behavioral, or emotional problems. It revealed an upward trend in anxiety, in depression, and suicide ideation. In response to those results, the commissioners of Health, Education, and Human Services responded by saying we really need to understand what is happening with our young people. Live More heard that as a call to action. In the testimony by Joan Brandt, MDH's Children and Family Health Division Director, she points to the fact that adolescents and young adults have some of the highest rates of loneliness compared to other generations. We know that loneliness and social isolation are linked to poor mental health outcomes. So I'm going to highlight 3 studies that provide insight as to why we are seeing higher levels of mental health issues among young people. Social comparison and feedback seeking by teens using social media and cell phones were linked with depressive symptoms in one study. Greater social media use, nighttime social media use, and emotional investment in social media were each linked to worse sleep quality and high levels of anxiety and depression. Research shows a downward trend in empathy, in self-esteem, and emotional regulation among heavy screen users. In one empathy study, those who experienced increased social interactions and did not have access to their digital devices over 5 days had an improvement in their ability to recognize and understand nonverbal emotional cues. I'd like to take a moment to look at the research from the Cyberbullying Research Center. There are many detrimental outcomes associated with cyberbullying. First, many targets report feeling depressed, sad, angry, and frustrated. As one teen said in one report, "It makes me hurt, both physically and mentally. It scares me and takes away all my confidence. It makes me feel sick and worthless." Victims of cyberbullying are often afraid or embarrassed to go to school. Research has shown a link between cyberbullying and low self-esteem, family problems, academic difficulties, and school violence. Cyberbullied youth also report having suicidal thoughts. Cyberbullying can be done anonymously. It can spread quickly to a large number of people online and is tremendously cruel because it can be done from a distance. Lastly, it's important to consider digital well-being through an equity lens. The effects of screen misuse and overuse impacts all generations, genders, race, and social class. However, studies reveal technology poses a greater detriment to under-resourced populations, on social mobility comparisons, on academic achievement, on distraction by devices in the learning environment, compromised use of tech as a learning tool, on social and emotional learning skills, and motivation and self-confidence. In a study of 130,000 students in London, the findings revealed that low-achieving students are more likely to be distracted by the presence of their mobile phones. Low-achieving students gain the most academically when there's a ban on cell phones. Today, you will hear from a teacher, a school counselor, and assistant principal speak to how time on screens has impacted their students. As digital well-being advocates, we see this time as a phenomenal opportunity to get ahead of the problem and to educate and promote digital well-being. If we don't take action to educate and support balanced use of digital media, we fear the negative mental health trends among young people will continue to trend downwards. Thank you, Chairman Chamberlain, for your dedication to this issue, and to the committee members here for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hampton. Next up is Ms. Meyers. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the name and the organization for the record.
Chair Chamberlain and members of the committee, my name is Catherine Meyers, and I represent the organization Live More, Screen Less. We are thankful and humbled by the opportunity to testify before you this afternoon. We are especially proud of the dedication of Senator Chamberlain to address this silent crisis. Our organization began out of a deep concern for the health, learning, and well-being of young people as they navigate a 24/7 digitally connected world. As a former educator of 25 years, I understand the benefits of technology in the classroom to deliver lessons, engage students, and ease communication. The most obvious benefit at this moment in time is the continuation of education during the pandemic. Yet, we must address the fact that technology is not neutral. Due to the highly sophisticated behavioral manipulations, persuasive design, and stealth algorithms, technology is not neutral. As you will hear from young people testifying today, they have been managing these unknown, perilous territories on their own. We can do better by them. The 33 pages of written testimony shared with you provides a glimpse at the depth, breadth, and complexity of this issue. Digital media, meaning the internet, social media, gaming, streaming, and pornography, affects all aspects of well-being. We must be knowledgeable about the portals of these devices and the vulnerabilities of our children to fall victim to the dangers they pose. The mothers of Sam Casperson and Ashlyn Lee join us today to testify to Sam's and Ashlyn's death by suicide. Their stories are heartbreaking and tragic, and for Ashlyn, a result of cruel social media attacks. As a victim of cyberbullying myself, I know firsthand the pain, fear, and helplessness that accompanies online anonymous threats and vulgar slurs. However, as an adult, I have the knowledge of experience and a fully developed brain to work my way through trauma. Teenagers lack both. Senators, we must address the role digital media plays in robbing our children of hope. We cannot ignore the data that shows the harm of social media to girls and the dangers of gaming and pornography to young boys. In the tragic documentary, Almost 13, Hayden Hunstable struggled to self-regulate and manage his online gaming world of Fortnite. He died by suicide. His parents regret that he was not safe in his own room, nor was a freshman boy safe in his own room while on the gaming app Discord. According to his father, Steve, he caught his son in his bedroom, sending nude photos of himself to an anonymous friend. In Steve's words, "I didn't realize that sex was such a big part of Discord." Remember the PSA decades ago, senators? It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? The modern day version could be rewritten. A child is on a screen. Do you know what they are viewing and experiencing? Now I'd like you to imagine your 10-year-old self sitting in your 5th grade classroom. Imagine your friends and what are your worries and what you are learning. The testimony by fifth grade teacher Madeline Nelson is, I imagine, to be a shocking contrast to your memories. Ms. Nelson has witnessed the distress to her 10-year-old students caused by sexting, late night gaming, cyberbullying, and the addictive nature of so many digital applications. We are talking about 10-year-olds. This should not be. Yet, according to the data, the highly manipulative and addictive nature of digital media should also not make this testimony come as a surprise. Our youth council members, Cece Hawley and Charlie Galisich, testify to how the pull of digital media for them and many of their peers who held the same habits left them feeling emotionally and cognitively drained, after often resulting in an avoidance of physical activity and conversations with friends. To be clear, the persuasive designs of digital media is harming healthy youth development. Senators, as you listen to the upcoming testimonies of teachers, youth advocates, a school principal, and young people, consider what you can do today to stop the harmful effects of digital media misuse and overuse. Please also consider the 10-year-olds in that fifth grade classroom. What is it that you can do now to change the stories they, their parents, and their teachers will be sharing about the effects of digital media in September when schools are fully opened? In 4 years, when they enter high school? In 8 years, when they are the age of Danielle Robinson, who is testifying today? The burden is great to ensure no child is alone in managing the perils of digital media, but we can lighten that burden by bearing it together.
Thank you, Ms. Meyers. So we have 3 more testifiers, then we'll stop for a few minutes and see if there's any questions or comments. So first up is Mr. Carr, and then on deck is Kylie Peterson, and then Sarah Moan. I hope I got that right. Mr. Carr, Kylie Peterson, Sarah Moan. So Mr. Carr, welcome to the committee. Please state your
Sure.
name.
Thank you. My name is Mike
Organization for the
Carr.
record.
Yes, my name is Mike Carr, and I'm a proud board member of Live More, Screen Less. They're doing wonderful things, and they're figuring out a solution to a long missed problem here, to engage high school and college students who've been through the struggles of managing technology in their lives, to kind of teach the younger ones how to do it. I want to say bravo to Chair Chamberlain and to this committee for giving some thoughtful sunlight to this problem, because it's very real. We have this society and world that we just get to live in an awesome power of technology that allows us to do so much stuff, but also has some really persistent and sometimes quite devastating pitfalls that may have with mental health, bullying, addiction. And it ripples out really to everyone in big cities and small towns, to every child, every parent of that child, and to, so much. My background, just so you know, is first and foremost, I'm a parent of an adult child with severe and persistent adult mental health, who grew up with screens and social media for the first time. And we literally had nothing then to kind of address the concerns we had. But I've also been a former school teacher, a camp director, a canoe guide who treasures kind of children, treasures the outdoors and the positive impact the two of those can have with each other. And I'm also a former super lawyer who gave up litigation to champion children, very much like my own child with disabilities. I'm also I'm a parent advocate for hundreds and hundreds of families, and I'm also a supervisor of a children's mental health youth board that works to stem discrimination and stigma for the ever-growing numbers of children living with mental health struggles. This issue is both personal and professional for me, and I just got to say that I sought out Live More because they were doing something that no one else was doing, these former educators, as far as figuring out a really workable solution, something that we could literally pass as a legislature to kind of impact all of our kids in Minnesota quickly, by kind of crowdsourcing the children who've been through it and have learned how to manage it, having them talk to every governing body or someone else, whoever it is. But it really does impact all the children that not only my own children, but the children that I have taught and the children that I advocate for. And I just want to say that I'm very proud of this committee. I tell people often that we live in the best country in the world to have a kid with a struggle like my kid and like so many of the kids I work with. And we live in truly one of the best states in this country to have a kid with a struggle. And that's partly because people like you on this committee, we care, and we are trying to figure out ways to do something better and to address something that's really no one was anticipating when this whole digital age came upon us, but it really does make a difference. And it's people like the teachers and the schools and the administrators. This is something we can all collaboratively work with to try to, help. I appreciate the support that you're giving here today for Live More, the support you've given for organizations like Pacer Center and so many others that are just making an exponential difference. And I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. I do want to say that the most important voices in the room are going to be the youth that are coming. And I hope you have a chance to really not only hear their wisdom, but be inspired by it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr. Thank you very much. So now we have, is it Kylie? Kylie, or is that how you say it?
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Do you prefer Ms. Peterson or Kylie Peterson?
I go by both. I'm Miss Kylie to most of my young people. So in this space, I'm going to continue with that. But professionally, you can call me Miss Peterson as well. So really just some of my background. I'm also a board member of Live More, Screen Less.
Kylie, could you, I'm sorry,
Can you hear me?
Please state your name for the record and your
Yes. My name is Kylie Peterson, and I am a board member of Live More Screen Less. And I'm also sit on the board as one of our youth advocates and expert in youth development. I come with a background of over 10 years in nonprofit sector and also out of school time, OST. And so when I speak and part of the biggest connection point with me and Live More is really that they sought out the youth first. And so when we talk about this, when we talk about this as adults coming into space and really speaking on protecting our children, protecting our youth, protecting our young people, it is also a solution and something that our youth are seeking out, that they are desiring, that they are not only speaking up within their own peers, but they're also speaking to those of their caring adults. And so in the spaces that I've been in, this is something that not only have I seen the positive effects of how we use digital media and technology, but also the negative. And so within my own written testimony, I shared some of the negatives dealing with mental health, bullying, and addiction. But I want to bring attention to more of the community piece that we're seeing and how young people as a collective also are using our media, and how those are the spaces where not only us as adults, but as the young people, they are those bystanders. They are those ones that can really speak to their experience, but they can also lift up and support each other. And so one of the incidents that I'd like to share just for the record was at one of our high schools. So I serve, as I said before, OST after school, which is an important aspect for a lot of our students, especially students in underserved and underrepresented communities as well, but even more so at some of our suburban schools as well. So in this capacity and space, a fight broke out at one of the school sites. And so instead of how we would typically respond, even my generation, I am still considered a millennial, we would go into action. There would be teachers, there would be other adults, other people visibly stepping in. But in this moment, this was a hidden hallway. This was away from adults' views, peers' views, but it was recorded on a phone. And so I bring this up because so easily are we using our devices to capture moments that are hurtful and harmful in places where our young people are not using their voices, they're not using their action, we're not seeking out adults even in those spaces to disrupt that action. And so as we consider those pieces, we want to think about the community. How are we enabling the community to respond to things outside of using the device? So we've talked about, hey, bans are something that we want to consider, but what does that look like as we go into their everyday lives? What are the resources and things that we're supporting them to really be well balanced as young people, but also as holistically? And so that is something that I have, and why I champion and I'm so excited about Live More Screen Less is not only is it providing the education of the harm, but also how do you continue to function? How do you continue to move on when we are not using these pieces that are so trained to our young people, to our youth? How many of us know that we have seen our 2-year-olds pick up a cell phone and they know how to use it better than we do? And so when we think of those pieces, what are we replacing, but how are we continuing to create spaces so that our young people can thrive, that our young people can see the difference between positive usage and also negative usage, and then be able to enable and call it out in their peers and others, because we don't just want to have individuals, we want to make it a community effort. We want to see that our community is taking this as a stand and is able to support the young people. And we also want to think about the access to resources in that space as well. What happens when we're limited with our outdoor spaces, or it's just the window light is what you're seeing from your outside. So how do we continue that aspect as well? So I want to thank you, Senator, and for creating the space, and for the committee for listening. And as I continue to say, Live More is definitely a solution, but our young people are carrying a lot of that solution, and I'm super excited for you to hear from them today.
Kylie, good information, a continuum of process. And by the way, don't take this the wrong way, I thought you were one of the students. So.
Thank you. I get that often. I have a young face, but I've been working with the youngest all the way to kindergarten, all the way up to college age students as well.
Thank you. Thank you for helping them out and working with them. Next up, Sarah Moan. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name and your organization for the record. Thank you. I hope I got that right.
Sarah's not, she needs to unmute.
Are you muted, Sarah?
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Chair Chamberlain and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Moan, and I am also a board member with Live More Screen Less and a high school English teacher. I am really excited to be serving this organization that is dedicated to empowering young people to take back their mental health and their lives as they learn to manage screens. I'm thrilled to see potential policy gaining traction and the possibility to access funding so that organizations like Live More Screen Less can really get to where kids are and help them empower themselves to take their lives back. I am a high school English teacher in my 31st year of teaching English, and I have had a front row to the havoc that these screens have wreaked upon the lives of our young people. I have taught in rural South Carolina. I have been in a bedroom community on the edge of the Twin Cities in a suburb. I have been in a big, highly ranked Twin Cities public school that accesses really affluent suburbs and a small independent school. And 10 years ago, I would have said, kids are kids are kids. Like, you put me anywhere and a teenager is a teenager. I know what makes them tick. 10 years ago, that shifted seismically. It was heartbreaking. We had a string of suicides in the school I was teaching in at the time that made us absolutely reckon with the mental health crisis that had been bubbling up. And going from, to put some perspective, in the first 20 years of my teaching career, I had one student that died by suicide, or one student in the building. It wasn't even my student. And I knew of one student that had been hospitalized for mental health issues that I drove and checked in. Since that, in the last 10 years, every year I have multiple students who are seeking access for mental health. They are sad and they are lonely and isolated. Everything that Marie said that the research has shown, I have watched walk through my classroom doors. And something has to be done. We have to help them. And they're really hungry for the help. I'm convinced that the sadness and the anxiety and the fear and the mental health issues come from this thing we put in their hands unknowingly, a computer, calling it a phone, and what opened up to them. They have traded human connection, authentic human connection. They've traded time outdoors. They've traded real books in print. They've traded hours of real phone conversations, conflict resolution that was more than 140 characters, note passing in class, and the fruitfulness of boredom. They're no longer allowed to be bored. For endless hours of scrolling, streaming, shallow connections, and the daunting task of branding themselves in order to be compared. And my students know how sticky the web is and what they're trapped. They're hungry. I have Emma, who was wise enough and raised with really firm boundaries, who does not have social media, and talked about being on a canoe trip for a week with none of her friends, and nobody had screens, and talked about how wonderful it was and how real it was and the bonding. And they got off the bus, and everybody grabbed their phones and they were gone. Her heart just sunk as she lost the real connection and saw the power that technology had over there. So they have paid a price, and Live More, Screen Less is ready to help fight that tidal wave. They are hungry to learn, and the golden model that Live More has of peer-to-peer connection and peer-to-peer modeling, I think really has a chance to enable these kids to change their lives and take back their happiness. So I thank you for listening and giving us space to speak today and considering policy and funding for this very real crisis that needs action now.
Thank you very much, Ms. Moan. Thank you. So members, we can take a slight break here. Anybody have any members' questions or comments? And after this, we have a video, a few more testifiers, then again, Ms. Lee and Ms. Casperson at the end. Members, any questions, comments at this point? Senator Uyghur.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to each of the testifiers for outstanding testimony. I'm wondering if you have some specific recommendations on policy changes. We clearly need to do more public awareness of this very crucial problem, but are there some specific restrictions, prohibitions that you would like to see in place in our schools regarding the use of equipment, or would it continue to be voluntary with disclosure? But any specific remedy that might be done. And then recognizing too that outside of school, that's with the parents and others and what we might do there. So possible remedies.
Thank you, Senator Uyghur. I know who wants it, Ms. Hampton or Ms. Meyers? Ms. Moan, who would like to take a shot? Ms. Meyers, you look like you're unmuted. So we do things here. You get the
Chair Chamberlain and Senator Uyghur, thank you for that question. I would like to approach that. I think as Senator Chamberlain has brought before the Senate a number of bills that he would like to see and to get the conversation started. One thing that we can certainly consider is how we approach driver's education. What is it that we take and consider before we hand a 16-year-old the car keys? What is it that we take and consider before we have issued iPads to preschoolers, third graders, middle schoolers? And what is it that we're doing before we hand cell phones to those as young as second grade? So that is one consideration that I would like to put before the committee. And certainly, what is it that we can do to support the classroom teacher who cannot compete against Silicon Valley? I would argue against anybody who claims that teachers just simply need to be more engaging. I know there are former educators on this committee who I hope will agree with me that that is not the burden that teachers need to bear. And so what is it that we can do to support educators in the classroom and to support the young people who are on addictive devices? As Senator Chamberlain opened up and said, that these have been designed to be addictive because it is the way that they make money. So I maybe will try to be brief there. I know we have a lot more ahead of us, but thank you for that question. And I look forward to seeing what this Senate committee can come up with in terms of policies.
It's a great start. Ms. Meyers. Senator Uyghur, anything else?
No, I look forward to the student testimony as well, but thanks, and this is a very good start.
Thank you, Senator Uyghur. Okay, I don't see anybody else up right now. So what we have now is a video, and I believe Ms. Robinson, is Danielle, you are going to give a brief intro of that and then run that video. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Chair Chamberlain and members of the committee, my name is Danielle Joy Robinson, and I am a member of the Live More Youth Council from the organization Live More Screen Less. I'm so glad I can be here today. In the early months, thank you. In the early months of 2020, I had the amazing opportunity to be a part of Live More's Listen In videos. In the video you are about to see, young people, myself included, are sharing their own experiences with social media and how misusing it can lead to the corruption of your mind. I will now share the video.
Thank you. This is where we always have trouble.
Yeah. See how this works out. I'm going to test, once I get it shared, I'm going to test the audio.
Sure. Okay. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'm testing the audio.
Got it.
Social media apps I use would be
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And scroll, and it just never stops. I would say when I go on my phone,
Danielle can't mute.
Danny, leave
and
yourself
the
on-
TikTok addiction of just
what was that?
I think you can't mute, I don't think, Danielle.
Oh, okay. Great. I'll put it back a little bit.
time, because you can just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, and it just never stops. I would say when I go on my phone, it's because I have nothing to do. Like, it's just kind of there. I am guilty of getting in the TikTok addiction of just swiping and swiping and swiping and swiping.
When I wake up, I just eat breakfast like a normal person, brush my teeth, and then go to school. And I actually leave my phone at home because I have this rule with my parents that I'm not able to bring my phone to school. So it's a little hard for me just socially, because that's what our generation does, is connected to our phones 24/7.
I realized that I was getting all these notifications and I was losing sleep because I would hear the ding and then I'd want to go and check. And so I started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb. I can't even say that I'm not completely consumed by social media. I guess I'm just sort of more free of the alerts of it.
It's hard to determine for me whether I have a more healthy or more unhealthy relationship with technology, because there's not really a good bottom line for how much technology use is too much.
I think I am mildly addicted to my phone. I used to be so much worse. It used to be 100% a crutch for getting through my day and kind of keeping the anxiety at bay, especially when my grades weren't so good or I wasn't doing so well in school, which it definitely was a cause of as well.
I definitely would see what people post online and then reflect on my own life. I want to see what their life is like, and maybe I could try to make mine a little bit like that. But since then, I think I've definitely grown in myself, and I've seen how other people, what they post online isn't exactly how their life is in real life. So, and that's the same with me. Whatever I post online, it's what I want you to see.
I typically try and avoid it because you see a lot of things on Instagram that generally, can kind of lower your self-esteem. You see these people that are either just ridiculously beautiful, wealthy.
I do believe there are definitely factors where young men are comparing themselves to other people who it would not be fair to compare themselves to. And that can lead to body shaming and other thoughts and ideas about your own body that would be negative in the end.
I definitely think there's a correlation between social media and technology related to depression and anxiety. I think it has to do with connection, because we're such social beings, humans are, and when you have a device in your hand, it disconnects you from other people. Earlier this year, I was also diagnosed with depression. It was a time where all the seniors were applying for colleges. We had to figure out what scholarships to do, like where we're gonna go, like just like next steps. And everybody was posting about it. And that really played a role. Like I was over here struggling. I completely deleted all social media officially around 2 months ago. I don't have that stress of having to think about, oh, is this picture good enough if so-and-so sees it?
I decided to cut out a lot of the social media and videos. It took up a lot of time, and when I was finished, I wouldn't remember anything of what I had just watched. I found a lot of clubs. I joined some improv groups, going to small events, either at like a French meetup at a cafe or just taking a nap. I found more useful.
I got to travel for like 2 weeks in Rome. I was really excited about that, but then I lost my phone in the airport. And it was so cool just like traveling without my phone, because it was like the first time I had gone anywhere new in a while. And it was a lot more like freeing.
I would say that technology can be both good and bad in different situations, but it's all down to us to try and invite people into our groups and make people feel at home. Parents should make sure that they have some rules in place for kids in regards to the use of technology, how they're using it, and how much they're using it, because there are certain points where too much use of technology or a certain way that you're using technology can definitely harm you in the long run, maybe even in the short term.
I feel like the role of parents should be to listen more and be more engaged in what their child is doing. Ask them why they do what they do.
Parents need to be vigilant with their kids. For my generation, when we have kids, you know, we have the experience of growing up with this and having a better understanding of it. So I think really it's our responsibility to be the model parents for our children when they have the opportunity to get involved with technology.
Excellent. Were those, Danielle, I might call you that, were those the students or some of the students that were involved in that project? I'm sorry, Ms. Meyers, I can't remember the high school, but they were involved in a psych project. Were those the same students or some additional students beyond that?
I'll address that, Senator Chamberlain. So yes, that was some of the students that you saw at Henry Sibley High School. So we have Miles here today to testify.
Thought I recognized Miles. Okay, I don't want to interrupt. So Danielle, did you want to continue or do you want to go to the other testifiers now?
We can go to the other testifiers.
Okay. All right, thank you. Was that you on the video too? Yeah, you were on there. All right. Okay. Yeah, so Olivia, you're up, and then Mr. Hill, you're on deck, okay? Please state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Olivia Schultz, and I am a senior psychology major at Colorado College, but I am originally from Arden Hills. I worked with Livermore last summer as a research intern and over my J block currently for this. In 2020, I made 2 huge changes to my life. The first was my relationship with my phone, and the second was my relationship with food, gluten to be specific. However, it wasn't until recently that I realized just how similar these 2 things are. Both digital devices and gluten work as binding agents, whether it's just to bind together breads and pasta or people and communities. Additionally, both of them taste really good and are often considered to be comforts, but these effects only exist in the moment of consumption. Further, research has shown the harmful effects of both on our health, but for some reason, most of us can't imagine a life without them. However, when you do give them up or start to choose healthy substitutes, you feel healthier and lighter, both physically and mentally. The actual act of choosing the healthier alternative to create a balanced lifestyle takes a lot of support and education. I've tried many times in the past to give up both gluten and my social media, but I was never successful until recently. With the support of my roommates, I've been gluten-free for almost exactly 5 months. With the support of Livermore, I have been working towards digital wellness for nearly 7. When I started working for Livermore last spring, I must admit that I was a little skeptical that digital devices are really having that big of an impact on our well-being. You can't point to causation was a phrase that repeatedly left my mouth. However, the more research that I collected, organized, and shared on Livemore's behalf through data briefs, the more I realized just how wrong I was. First, I learned how harmful usage patterns can be for our health. I learned that internet addiction disorder actually alters your brain structure, and that children who watch TV or use their phones at bedtime are over 2 times more likely to be obese. Next, I learned about all the connections that social media has with poor mental health. Again, my hesitations about a lack of causation rang through my head, but I found strong evidence to support that passive users are less satisfied with life compared to active users, and that the longer college students used Facebook, the more they engaged in upward social comparison, which has been previously linked to depression and anxiety. Then I turned to look at social media's effect on social skills and relationships. I thought that social media was supposed to make us feel more connected to our friends and family, but learned that instead it makes us feel more lonely and impairs our interpersonal skills. As if I wasn't convinced yet, I also learned that texting more when you're stressed actually leads to emotional burnout, which is incredibly harmful for our emotional well-being. Finally, I learned how disruptive phones and computers actually are for learning. To me, the most striking study provided evidence that just simply having your phone on your desk when learning or concentrating unconsciously impairs your working memory and functional fluid intelligence. All of these studies and more were a wake-up call for me, just as I hope they are for you. They have inspired me to make changes to my relationship with my devices. While support from Livemore has helped me to move toward digital well-being, I still find myself getting pulled back into my habits from time to time because my sister, my friends, and my classmates are not on this journey with me yet. Change takes a village. This is why the pursuit of digital wellness must also be driven by student leaders who can help create an environment that will be conducive towards progress. Student leaders that will be educated and trained through Livemore. A year ago, I could not imagine my life without gluten or a reliance on my phone. Now I have accomplished both, and I am the healthiest I have been in years. Livemore has the ability to help young people like me, and I hope you will help them do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Schultz. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think I've become less smart over the years as well with this thing next to me. Thank you for those comments. Mr. Hill, you're up, and I think I saw you at the school as well. You were on that project. So Mr. Hill, welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and who you're with.
Yes, thank you, Chair Chamberlain and members of the committee. My name is Miles Hill. I'm a resident.
Hey, Miles, I'm having a hard time hearing. Could you move a little closer maybe to where you're at?
Is that better?
Yep, there you go. Better. Gotcha.
I'm a resident of West St. Paul, and I'm attending my senior year at Henry Sibley High School, and I'm a member of Livemore's Youth Council. It's been about a year now, and I've been given many opportunities to directly interact with digital well-being in many forms. Before officially joining, I got to participate in Livemore's Henry Sibley student panel, where I got to meet Chair Chamberlain, and I was in the listen-in video that was played previously. Now my role is often dedicated to contributing to experiences and perspective to projects and webinars. Technology has always provoked a profound fascination for me. Its potential to solve problems and create convenience for a user is captivating. But there's a point in which, like many things, too much becomes harmful. The effects of technology overuse are disconcerting, but the willingness to acknowledge them but not change anything is frightening. We adapt our lives around our screen usage rather than adapt our screen usage to our lives. I'm no exception. Even as a member of Livemore, my technology outlets play a prominent role in my day-to-day life. That often takes form of overuse. I'm willing to recognize this, but unwilling to change many of my behaviors. To change my use of technology would, like Olivia said, be like changing my diet. I may choose to make small, healthier choices, but many of my habits remain the same. That is not to say it's hopeless, but something that is not done easily or overnight. In the same sense that solutions of abusing screen use are similar to that of dieting in 2 ways. Being informed on the issue helps, and no one process works for everyone. Many of the children who were born around the establishment of personalized screens are now grown up enough to see the effects on their lifestyle. Like me, despite the negative effects, many can't overcome the deep-rooted behaviors that have been initiated. Rather, I think it's important to practice methods of prevention at a younger age before habits form. Teenagers will fight tooth and nail to defend what they think is right, and we will readily refute or discredit any opposing views. But with early education, screen use can be easily taught and learned. That's why it's important to raise awareness, and there's no one more qualified to pass on the message than those of us who have experienced it firsthand. Livermore is not just a teaching experience, but also a learning experience. It's a place I feel I belong and where I know I'm not alone in my struggles. In my opinion, that's half of the battle. Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for joining us, Mr. Hill. I appreciate the thoughts. It's not easy. So we have Danielle, did you have any closing comments on this piece?
Yes, I also have a testimony. I'll be.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. Sorry. Chair Chamberlain, members of the committee, as I mentioned earlier, my name is Danielle Joy Robinson. I live in Blaine, Minnesota, and I graduated from Minnehaha Academy last summer. Currently, I'm a freshman at Anoka Ramsey Community College, majoring in communications, but hopefully I will be transferring to Macalester College in St. Paul in the fall of this year to double major in cultural anthropology and Spanish. I'm so excited to be able to share my voice with you all here today. What an incredible opportunity. To start, I am 18 years old. I was born in 2002, which means I'm a member of Gen Z. Gen Z has a negative reputation of being tech dependent and completely immersed in our phones. While this stereotype holds truth, it's important to recognize why we have this unhealthy relationship with technology. I was 10 years old when I received my first smartphone, which is a fairly young age, but over half of my life was spent without one. Growing up, I remember riding my bike with my neighbors and having lemonade stands and just being outside all of the time without any digital distractions. I didn't have homework on an iPad until I was in middle school. The point that I'm trying to make is that smartphones and technology came at a pivotal point in my life where I and most other kids weren't prepared. And not only were we not prepared, but we were, in theory, the guinea pigs of this experiment called social media. There was no one to tell us how to properly use technology in a way that wasn't damaging to our brains and our bodies and our mental health. And what happens when you put a human into an unfamiliar environment? Well, they would adapt because that's what human beings are naturally inclined to do. But without any guidance, they might adapt in the wrong way. There are far too many young people and frankly, older people who are addicted to their phones or simply just not using technology most beneficially. We didn't ask to be put into this digital universe of likes and comments and hearts and shares. And I'm not blaming anyone because things evolve and life changes, and that's just how it is. But to say that we're addicted to our phones by choice is incorrect. And to dismiss the current rise in depression and anxiety is neglect. I personally don't enjoy going on social media anymore because it's draining, but also because my 10-year-old self was pressured to immerse herself in social media culture, which now has 18-year-old me addicted to something that no longer benefits me. I am only one of millions of young people that have this problem. That brings me to a proposed solution. I'm a member of the Livermore Screen Less organization, and currently, the Livermore Youth Council is working on a digital well-being training that includes modules, testimonies, journal prompts, and more that will hopefully help to see how technology can be used more intentionally. We hope that this training can eventually be widely accessible to all young people. On a smaller scale, we need parents and older adults to be aware and educated on the effects of misuse of technology. It also might be beneficial to notice how much time you're spending on your devices and also how you spend your time on your devices. Intentional usage is our main goal, not cancel usage. We as young people are asking you to listen and be understanding of the negative effects of tech dependency. That being said, we are here today to tell you that we are determined to fix this digital epidemic that has corrupted the minds of young people. And we hope that you will stand with us in this fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. That's powerful. I'd like to hear it. Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I ran out of juice. I had to plug in. But thank you very much, Danielle. It's very insightful testimony. We do need ideas for solutions. So members, maybe take some questions here. Anybody have any questions for these last three testifiers? Senator Isaacson, did you have a question, comment? guess you're muted, Senator.
Sorry, I wonder when I'll learn how to do that right. I'm an educator and have been for about 15 years. And it's been interesting watching the evolution of my students who are all the same age every year, right? So it's different as we go through the years. And there was a period of time where I noticed for about 3 years, students really struggled because in college, right, you learn things from the perspective of the discipline the class takes place in. But when you Google concepts, it doesn't know to look for that discipline, right? And so it gives you general concepts. And then students get a lot wrong in their tests because they're not paying attention to what the class subject is and just Googling answers to find the easy solution, right? And I also have, you can't use electronics in my classrooms. It just can't have your phone on, computer can't be on. Take notes the old-fashioned way. Apparently, I'm a little old school that way. I am interested in understanding. I really kind of been him and hawed all over the spectrum when I heard you guys talking. At first, I'm like, come on. And then I'm like, well, yeah, I know bullying is real, and I passed and worked on bullying legislation in the past. And then I kind of went all over the place. And I'm wondering, it sounds like your focus on intentional usage is very promising in that respect, right? And I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more about what intentional usage means to you guys and how that would look in a real setting in terms of like how you'd apply it or teach people that kind of stuff. So thank you. Thank you for sharing today.
Thank you, Senator Isaacson. Ms. Robinson, did you want to address that since you kind of brought it up last, or you want to hand it off to someone else? You want to take it, Ms. Robinson?
Yes, thank you. Chair Chamberlain and Senator Isaacson for that question. Intentional usage means it's basically asking the question as like, what's your purpose? What's the purpose for you going on social media in the first place? And what's the purpose for using your device in school? That might be your iPad or your laptop. And a deeper meaning to that would be, are you posting on Instagram or Snapchat for other people? Do you want the likes? Are you getting serotonin from hearts and comments? And if that's the case, then that's addiction, and it's starting a habit that is unhealthy and negative, as opposed to just wanting to share an experience that happened in your life, or just share anything about your life. And then in the setting of school, just making sure that your digital device is being used for educational purposes only. Like Schoology is very helpful and important for homework and for teachers as well, teachers and students. So apps like that are very intentional and helping to get things done. So that would be the main concept around intentional usage.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Senator Isaacson, a follow-up?
Just that I'm thankful every day that social media didn't exist when I was a kid, because I was in a lot more trouble and probably wouldn't be in this seat. And I appreciate the struggles that happen. I have two brothers that are 21 and 25 years younger than me. And so watching them, how they dealt with social media and how I have to deal with it as an adult and helping them see the big picture has been really challenging in that. So I can understand the mountain you're running up against. And I look forward to watching the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Isaacson. So Senator Swedinsky and then Senator Coolman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, a comment to Ms. Robinson. Now I know what happened to the lemonade stands, or the lack thereof. I want to thank Ms. Moan for your testimony. It's always a pleasure to see a teacher speaking at our education committee. So I thank you for what your words are. And I just have another quick comment, but whoever can answer the one question, I'm wondering what role Betty Ford Hazelton had in the video, because at the end there was there was a thing at the end of the video that had their tag on there, and I'm curious what their role is in this. And I just can't thank you guys, everybody on this testimony enough today. This has been about 40 years ago, I entered the classroom, and maybe 1 out of 100 of my students had mental health, chemical dependency, just issues where they needed to see a counselor. And by the end of my career, a few years ago, Miss Moan, I think I beat you by 3 years or something like that. By the end of my career, it'd be 20 to 25 out of 100. And we're seeking help outside of school for issues they were having. And I don't know what it is, but certainly this could be it. And the genie's out of the bottle. I don't know how we're going to get it back in. I think Senator Uyghur asked a great question of what do you guys think we can do? And I'm not sure I heard an answer to his inquiry, but nonetheless, let's keep talking. Let's keep the dialogue going. This is a pandemic that in some ways could have longer lasting effects than COVID has and will. And I think if there's a silver lining in the last year of our existence on this planet, it's the addictions that all of you have talked about, and maybe that'll be the silver lining. Is we're going to have a serious conversation about the role social media has played in our kids, and they're not having it. I wish I could say in their well-being, but it's the opposite of that. So I just want to thank you all, and if somebody could answer that question I had about Betty Ford, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Swedinsky, and I just repeat that he does have one bill I have not looked at yet about limiting screen time for younger grades. We'll have some more coming forth as well. Ms. Hampton or Ms. Meyers, do you want to take that about the Betty Ford? Did they have some involvement in this, or?
Yes, thank you, Chair Chamberlain and members of the committee. The Hazelton Betty Ford connection that we have as an organization is that our board chair works at Hazelton Betty Ford, and her name is Jessica Wong, and she heads up the adolescent division, and she is a national speaker on this issue. She's kind of we're mentored by Jessica, and it really struck her at the treatment center when young people would come to the treatment center for addiction to alcohol and drugs. They had a harder time giving up their phones than they did those substances. And she believes it's just a matter of time before they're going to have a whole wing at Hazelton for digital addiction treatment. So that's Jessica Wong at Hazelton Betty Ford, our board chair.
Thank you. We're going to take 2 more quick questions, and then we're going to move on. We have 2 more testifiers, and then closing from Ms. Meyers and Hampton. Then we want to get to Shannon Lee and Jenna Casperson. So, Senator Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. I just want to start by saying thank you so much to the students for speaking out. You're incredibly brave to be doing this at your age. I don't think I would have the guts to do it. But this question is directed at whomever is able to answer. As we're talking about screen use and building up those neural pathways and the addiction and the cycles, is this a conversation we need to be having with parents even before school? It wasn't until a constituent gave me a book, I believe it was called Look Up, A Parent's Guide to Screen Use, that I realized I had to be thinking about this with my 1-year-old. And if we should be having these conversations, what are the resources parents can use?
Ms. Meyers, you want this one?
Absolutely. Thank you, Senator Chairman, and thank you, Senator Coleman, for the question. And Marie, if you'd like to add with me, that would be great. So you are exactly right. This conversation needs to happen now, before children are immersed, before parents have screens in their hands. We know too that a child wants to stare into their parents' eyes. And if the parents' eyes are looking at a screen, the parent is not looking at that child. And irreparable damage could happen immediately from birth if that parent does not understand that that bonding has to take place. And we do not want to have a screen in the middle of that. One of the proposals that we have that we hope we can share with you is how Live More is working to build a national network. And one of our national partners just last week had a webinar dealing just with that, about parents of newborns and the screen education that they want to have there. So Marie, maybe if I can hand that off to you, and this could share just a little bit about our national partners.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Myers. And I don't want to rush you here. Just want to make sure we get to Miss Lee and Janet Casperson as well. So go ahead, Ms. Hampton.
Thank you, Chair Chamberlain. Just really quickly, I will, if it's appropriate or okay, we are happy to put a list of resources together. I don't want to take away time from the two moms today, but we'd be happy to share some resources for you, for parents, and we definitely want parent education, and is part of the work of Livermore is to address screen use with parents of all age children.
Yeah, you can send that to either Judy Donovan or Greg Marcus, and they'll get it out, and we'll share that. Thank you, Ms. Hampton. Senator Duck, I don't want to leave you short, Senator Coleman. Was that helpful?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Senator Duckworth, you got something?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very briefly, and this question and the comment is not meant to be critical by any means. More so just a perception of what is reality. And I think it's ironic isn't the right word, but to be discussing our students and our young people experiencing too much screen time in the environment in which we're in, when we're almost requiring an abundance of screen time, is obviously troubling. Like I said, it's not meant to be critical. It is the situation. I understand it for a variety of reasons, but it would seem to me that the quickest way we can limit screen time is getting kids back into the classroom safely. So I'm looking at, and the question is really, as we move forward, hopefully with the sense of urgency, how do we strike that balance between using the tools that are at our disposal in terms of electronic devices, tablets, et cetera, and also making sure that our students are getting the sort of instruction that they need that's healthy for their development, et cetera. And this is coming from a school board member who just a few months ago worked with my peers and the superintendent in the district to move heaven and earth to become a one-to-one district so that we can meet the needs of folks doing distance learning. So just looking for some commentary and thoughts on how we strike that balance moving forward.
I see Ms. Meyers unmuted. You want to take that again?
Yes, Senator Chamberlain, thank you. And I will be brief. And Senator Duckworth, I think you asked a poignant question that we want to address. This problem was a problem prior to the pandemic. And educators on this committee, Ms. Moan and myself, can testify that moving back into the classroom will not eliminate the problems that our young people have with screens. So as Senator Chamberlain attended a panel that we presented at Henry Sibley on March 11th, 2 days before the governor closed schools, we were talking about this issue. We will be talking about this issue for years and decades to come. So part of what we approach is not necessarily screen time, but as Danielle so succinctly put it, it's how we are using those devices and how we can be intentional. And so we as an organization talk about digital well-being for that exact reason. How can we use these devices and be well?
Thank you, Ms. Meyers. All right, thank you, members. We'll move on now. And we're going to have plenty of time for you, Shannon Lee and Janet Casperson. We're not going to cut you short. So we have now Tammy Duke, and on deck is Sean Peck. And then we'll go to a wrap up from Ms. Hampton and Ms. Meyers. So Ms. Duke, are you here with us? There you are down there in the corner. You may state your name. Welcome to the committee. State your name for the record and who you're with. Do unmute though. There you go. I saw you reaching for the unmute button. Now you froze.
There we go.
And you're moving. Okay, good. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Chair Chamberlain and members of the committee, my name is Tammy Duke. I'm a school counselor at William Kelly Schools in Silver Bay, Minnesota. And I've been a school counselor for 20 years. And this is one of my passions. As I end my career, I'm getting close to retirement, and I have seen a lot of the changes. We've heard from so many people about the devastating effects, the mental health, the cyberbullying, all of that. I'm not going to go into any of that. I've been on the front lines of this in multiple places, not only in a rural community, but I started my career in Fridley and in the Princeton area. And then, I thought it would be a little bit different and better in a rural area. In terms of digital media, it's not any different. We are on the first day of our children being back for hybrid, our high school kids, I should say. That's 7 through 12 in my world. And so went in to go by, see where everybody was at lunch. They were in their classrooms. Honestly, they were all on their devices and not anyone was talking. I think that is so weird. You haven't been to school, you haven't seen your people since Thanksgiving, and none of you are even having a conversation. So I engaged the students, we had a conversation, they laughed. It was just, I don't know, I can't even explain it. It just concerns me so deeply about the development of our youth. And I've been studying this for a long time. I've heard a lot of different speakers. I've worked with a lot of different people, followed a lot of different websites. And honestly, I think we all know that it's complicated. It's a complicated thing. And that's why I really think that KK and Mari are Live More Screen Less. They have what I've seen as the best model so far. And their authenticity and caring, like literal caring, are amazing. And I think that we're going to need someone to help us in schools lead this effort and in communities. I'm also on a community board, North Shore Mental Health Group, and our community is very, very concerned. And we've got a proposal from KK and Mari to do something within the community, but right now we're seeking funding. So you ask what you can do. From my perspective, one of the things is to help us find sources of funding in the community and to bring it to schools' agenda. If somebody doesn't make schools bring this to their agenda, it won't happen. I'm just here to say, there's so much competition for school agendas right now, just like there was with college and career readiness legislation. I see this in the same boat. Like, we need schools to be we need people and communities to be teaching parents, and we need schools to be teaching kids. And we're going to need help if we're going to do it right. Yeah, we can throw language out there, but I want to do it. I want to do it right, and I want to do it with knowledge. And I think that's my main point there.
I appreciate that. Your comment about walking to the classroom. I had two experiences, and I think we've all had this. Even if you go into a modern office there before COVID, you went into a large, regular office area, people have their cubes, right, which is dehumanizing enough, and I'll never go back. I'll clean out porta potties before I do that. But with all the cubes around, and then you just hear keyboards clicking because people don't talk, because if they're not on doing something for work, they're just searching the web, or they're on their phone, and then they got the earbuds in to shut out everything else. Even at another level, there's that sort of stuff going on. So even in a movie theater, if you sit down and there's 15 or 20 people, 10 or 12 will be on the phone, and it's supposed to be a social event. So yeah, we've all had those experiences. It's surreal, to say the least.
Well, and if I could just add,
Sure.
Chair Chamberlain and members, the training that KK did with our organization 2 years ago, I learned so much from that, specifically myself. They had us look at our usage, and I still think about that to this day. I have a marketplace addiction. I will come out with that, okay? I'm not, I'm part of this too, and I'm an adult, and I'm trying to figure out how to do this. And I go back to what KK has taught me, and I've only worked with them just a short time. And it was like, after an hour, you're out of the zone, and it's no longer fun. It puts you in a different space. And I love the intentional use. These things are not going away, I will tell you. They're not going away. So we got to learn how to manage them. We have to.
I agree. Yep. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thank you, Ms. Duke.
You're welcome, and thank you for listening to me.
Yep, absolutely. Mr. Peck, and then a few closing comments from Ms. Hampton and Meyers, and we wrap it up with Ms. Lee and Janet. Go ahead, Mr. Peck. Where are you at?
Thank you. My name is Sean Peck, and I serve as assistant principal at Faribault High School down in Faribault. I want to thank you, Chair Chamberlain, and all the members of the committee for your time and willingness to hear these important stories about what our young people are experiencing. My job, in a nutshell, as a school leader, is to make sure that the conditions are right for every student to be able to learn as much as they can, certainly to become college and career ready. And really, I think it's part of my responsibility to make sure that school is an overall good experience for young people. We know that school is not optional. Attendance is required. We have a captive audience. And so we know that we have a responsibility to create safe conditions. And we show that responsibility by having fire drills and lockdown drills and tornado drills and all kinds of different campaigns to really maximize the safety of the students that quite literally cannot opt out. But to this point, we have not done that around personal devices and digital media. Even though the research is pretty clear that it is harming kids, we really haven't gone there as a society and as schools to address that harm that we all are essentially in agreement is damaging. We also know that our communities are spending a great deal of money to make sure that we are maximizing the potential of our young people. James Baldwin said, "For these are all of our children, and we will all profit by or pay for whatever they become." And from a school leader perspective, personal devices and social media make it much harder for us to fulfill the responsibility that you all have given to us to teach these students well. It's not impossible, certainly, but it does make it harder. And that's shown by, the constant dinging and the buzzing of the devices in classrooms, the constant distraction that we see when we're fighting so hard for attention. Kids are distracted, and it's tougher to learn that way. We see young people withdrawn. We want to engage with them and build relationships with them and show them and have them feel our care, but they withdraw into their phone. That's kind of their safe space. We heard that from some of the young people here today. And you might, if you asked young people, they like engaging with their friends. They like engaging with their teachers. And most of them would say, I feel lousy when I'm on my phone after a certain amount of time. And that is really an addictive thing there. It doesn't make any sense, right? If one makes you feel worse and the other one makes you feel better, why wouldn't you do the one that makes you feel better? But more and more kids retreat into their phones. And that really, to me, speaks of an addiction. Even though it makes them feel worse, they still go there. We see a lack of movement and exercise that screen times bring about, which leads to a decrease in endorphins. And in a school that looks a lot like apathy or sluggish kids, which we certainly see. Cyberbullying has been well documented during this conversation. And the catch-22 of the whole thing is that when kids are experiencing pain, where do they go? After they've been cyberbullied, where do they go? They go to their phones. And the portal that has been opened up when kids are getting bullied, it's right there in front of them. Again, you might say, put the dang phone down. But it's an addiction. And we have to ask ourselves, why are they addicted? And who is responsible for that addiction? And what do we do about it? I could go on and on about the symptoms. Certainly the increased academic dishonesty, that camera feature on your phone shows itself a lot in schools. Kids staying up late because they're on their phones and they come to school just too tired to learn. And that's why a couple years ago, I started partnering with, in our schools, Faribault Public Schools, reached out to KK and Marie and said, help us. We need your help. It was just doing too much damage to our kids and we needed an intervention. And I was instantly impressed. They jumped right in. They started surveying our parents and our teachers and our students. They worked hand in hand with our school administration. And to Senator Duckworth's point about how, isn't this ironic that we're doing this all on a Zoom call right now and all of our kids are learning through the screen? I don't know where we would be if we didn't have KK and Marie's expertise to guide us through and help us make decisions around appropriate screen time, screen breaks, digital well-being tips that are shared with our parents each week in our parent newsletter and with our teachers through different professional development. They have been instrumental in helping Faribault Public Schools. I have seen firsthand what their work can look like. And I would encourage the committee to give them a platform and an audience and amplify their voice, because I've seen firsthand the good work that they can do. It may seem obvious, just tell them to put their phones away in the classroom. We have tried that. We have reminded students to do that. One analogy that came up was, imagine how difficult it would be if the flight attendant said, we need you to put your phone away on a flight, but there was no FAA regulation that they could use as sort of a little bit of muscle behind it. Well, right now, I think our teachers and our educators are looking for a certain amount of muscle or something that they can go to where they are not necessarily the bad guy, always reminding kids over and over and over to put their phones away. They are trying, but we're having a tough time with it, to be honest with you. So that's all I have for today. I just want to close out by saying thank you again to the committee for taking on this important work and for drawing attention to this public health crisis. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Peck. So far, it's just been, I found this whole thing fascinating, the conversations. I'm going to ask Ms. Hampton and Ms. Meyers to do a quick couple-minute wrap-up, and then we're going to get the headliners on here, Ms. Lee, Ms. Casperson.
Thank you, Senator Chamberlain. I will be brief. Committee members, senators, thank you for your rapt attention. And I'd like to close by mentioning to you Livermore's whole community approach, and what it is that you have seen and heard before you is an example of that approach. As Marie mentioned, we work at the intersection of public health and education, and our model comes from the whole school, whole community, whole child model that was a joint effort between the CDC and ASCD, an educational professional organization. That model puts the student at the center. And you heard directly from Miles and Danny and Olivia about what that means when they are at the center and cared for by the Livermore community. You've heard from Sean and Tammy attest to what Livermore has done in their school and the way that we have supported the teachers, the students, the administration. Committee members, we have submitted to you some of our research and a link to our data briefs that I want to make special note that our intern Olivia Schultz helped assemble this summer, as well as individual research, and then our solutions. But I don't need you to go to those solutions, but rather just to hear what it is that our young people brought to you. Danielle talked about intentional use, and she talked about what it is that has harmed her from a 10-year-old, and how a peer-to-peer model that she herself is working on, she's asking you to get that into the hands of every Minnesota student. That's coming from her. And you heard from Miles say, you're not going to be able to tell me what to do. I'm a teenager. But as a teenager, I can tell a younger child what to do. I have lived it. And as Olivia said over and over, she wasn't going to believe the research until she just saw it so compelling, and then she went ahead and made those changes. So we come before you asking for attention to this, asking for care for our young people, and asking you to consider Live More, Screen Less as a Minnesota-based organization ready to work at a whole community approach to solve this silent crisis.
Thank you very much, Ms. Meyers. We have one final question from Senator Newman, and then we're going to move on. Senator Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to express my appreciation to all of the testifiers, especially the students that have come on and talked about something that those of us who are not educators just intuitively know there's a problem. And so I really do appreciate the fact that you've come forward with this and educated me on this issue. Mr. Chairman, I would be interested in hearing from the medical community, specifically on the issue of digital addiction, and I would ask that maybe you consider that for some future hearing. but I really would like to hear what the medical community has to say about this issue. Thank you much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Senator Newman. It had to be 2019. I met with a group of psychiatrists, psychologists, child psychiatrists out in St. Louis Park area. They were from new entrants into the field to the head of the U of M psych department. To the person, they knew the problems then, and they see it every day. So thank you for the comment. Ms. Hampton, did you have a final closing comment, or are we okay to move on?
Thanks, Senator Chamberlain. No, I'd love to just pass it on to Janet and Shannon. I think we've had a phenomenal time, and I'm ready to hear from Shannon and Janet. Thank you, though.
So thank you. We're blessed to have you all here. Thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch to try to craft something that works to get back at these people who've done this to us. So with that, I'm going to go to the headliners. Miss Lee or Miss Casperson, whoever wants to go first, you have the floor. Just state your name for the record and who you're with or what you're doing.
Hi, my name is Shannon Lee, and I'm just with myself today. And Janet.
Right.
We're just moms.
Most important thing on the planet. Go ahead, Miss Lee.
All right. So can I go ahead?
Yes, you go right ahead.
Okay. Well, my name is Shannon Lee. I'm a wife, a healthcare worker, a friend, a volunteer, but at the forefront of everything at this moment, I'm a mother deeply grieving the loss of my 16-year-old daughter, Ashlyn Taylor Lee. This loss, her death, was due to suicide, and that choice to take her life was greatly influenced by the way she was treated, the things that were said to her, and the way she was made to feel, in particular over social media. Ashlyn had a wonderful childhood. As a family and extended family, we were extremely close. There was never a day that we weren't off to do something together and make memories. We loved life and loved doing new things to enjoy life. With each change of season brought new fun activities to do, but we'd also love the simplicity of a cute restaurant or finding a cozy place for a calming cup of tea. Ashlyn was an old soul, an empath, a talented artist, an exceptionally gifted writer and poet. She loved the color yellow, antique stores, rocks and crystals, sunflowers, and appreciated the beauty in the world around her. So often we just sit and watch the sunrise or sunset, and we take the time to intentionally stand still for a moment to hear the sounds of the world moving around us and just appreciate the peace that those pauses to our day would bring. Unlike many kids her age, Ashlyn was an oversharer, and there was literally nothing we didn't talk about. She never talked respectful to anyone, including her parents or family. She never talked back, never acted embarrassed by her parents like so many other kids would do. She would always want her friends to be friends with her family too. And at one point, she sent a Snapchat to everyone she knew saying, "Be friends with my mom. She's super cool, really nice, and a great person to talk to." Before I knew it, I was friends with literally half the school and then some, as kids kept sharing it, and they'd reach out about different things and want to tell me how their day was or ask advice about things that were going on. Ashlyn and her sister, who was 2 years younger, were best friends. They adored each other. You would always find them holding hands, giving each other piggyback rides, or just cheek to cheek giggling or talking about anything and everything. Other parents would comment how sweet our relationship as a family was, and I was so proud of my family. At home, Ashlyn knew she was loved, and we knew she loved us. We said it with meaning and intention every day and all the time. However, Ashlyn started having a lot of anxiety when it came to school. For Ashlyn, her problems were not at home. Her emotional pain and suffering came at the hands of her classmates, peers, people her age, and those who didn't even really know her, but would send their opinions and comments to her over social media. When she was a freshman, she started dating a boy. He was very cute, well-dressed, had good manners, captain of the soccer team, and was every teacher's pet and what appeared to be the perfect guy. She liked him a lot, and so did we, at first. Then the red flags started, and it was quite apparent she needed to get out of this relationship. She started therapy. Her therapist said that even though she never likes to label anyone she hasn't met, she said this guy was a classic sociopath. Through therapy, Ashlyn was given tools to break away from this abusive relationship. And as much as I wanted her to completely throw this guy under the bus and expose him for the person we knew and she had proof of him being, she never wanted to cast herself in a negative light or talk bad about him. She never wanted to talk bad about anyone ever. Even when people were hurtful to her, that just wasn't the person who she was. But because of this silence, her abuser was able to tell the narrative he wanted everyone to hear, and people couldn't understand how she could break things off with someone that everyone thought was the perfect guy. He made it seem as though she was crazy for breaking things off with him. See, people didn't know that Ashlyn had disclosed to her therapist, and Ashlyn was not aware that the therapist was legally mandated to report this, that she was sexually abused by this boy. From this point forward, her life at school and over social media became unbearable. This young man, his cousin who also went to school with him, his cousin's girlfriend, and another girl were relentless in their pursuit to hurt Ashlyn because they felt she had hurt their cousin and friend. This group would send terrible things over social media. Ashlyn would show me when she opened them, but as quickly as they came, they disappeared because that's how Snapchat works. She would block them, but they would make new accounts just to be able to still get to her. The ex became obsessed, and even though he tormented her with the others, behind the scenes, he would continue to try to win her back. He would create new Snapchat and Instagram accounts just to try to talk to her. And when she'd say to leave her alone or she'd block one of those accounts, he threatened to kill himself. It was such a vicious cycle. Per the direction of her therapist, we would call the school or the police every time he would threaten to take his life, but this became exhausting, and the story he told following
I lost her.
Miss Lee, Shannon? Shannon, can you hear me?
No.
Nope.
talk bad about people.
There you go.
Ashlyn was physically assaulted by him more than once while at school. One time he was mad at her because he wanted to look through her phone and she didn't want to give it to him. They were in a classroom at school with other kids and the teacher was there. He gave her a very hard shove, which sent her somersaulting over the top of a desk and onto the floor on the other side. It broke the cup she was carrying and bruised her. Of course, kids got their phones out and started recording and sending messages about what was happening, but no one caught him in the act of actually pushing her. The teacher saw her tumbling over the desk, but did not see him physically do this. So in the end, he didn't get in trouble because there's no real proof of his act. Fast forward to December of Ashlyn's junior year of high school. The bullying from her ex and his group continued, but Ashlyn met a sweet, kind, considerate soul named Sam. Sam was struggling after the deaths of his two friends from suicide in the beginning of that school year. Ashlyn cared a great deal for Sam, and they got along extremely well. Early in the day on January 2nd, 2020, Sam texted Ashlyn and said he was going to kill himself. Kids say that all the time, like, oh, I'm going to kill myself. So I don't think she thought he meant those words, but she FaceTimed him and they talked for a very long time. They had a really good conversation and got off the phone with Ashlyn thinking everything was fine. Ashlyn and another one of Sam's friends talked after about their concern for Sam and what to do for him, but later that night, Sam took his life. Because Ashlyn had called Sam's friend after her FaceTime call with him, people knew what Sam had said to her earlier in the day, and they felt she should have done more to save him. They told her she was responsible for his death, and kids told her that she should go and kill herself too. Of course, these messages came over Snapchat, and Ashlyn was not willing this time to tell us who sent them, given the backlash she got and the torment she endured following her previous experience. The days leading into Sam's funeral were terrible. Over social media, kids were threatening to beat Ashlyn up if she went to the funeral and were telling her she better not go. The weeks following Sam's death were very hard. I took 3 weeks off of work to be with Ashlyn. And then when I went back, my husband took another week off. Ashlyn went to therapy more than once a week. We did a lot of self-care, lots of meditation, yoga, music, candles, baths, face masks, essential oils, tea, etc. You name it, we did it. Immediately following Sam's death, my husband and I started therapy for the sole purpose of knowing how to best help Ashlyn and support her. She was devastated by the loss of Sam, but that loss was compounded exponentially by the hate she received over social media. We wanted her to disconnect from it all, but it also was a place she was getting some support from people as well. And it's such a catch-22. Then on February 18th of 2020, 6 weeks after Sam died by suicide, our sweet Ashlyn took her life. The guilt and responsibility she felt for Sam and people making her feel she could have saved him were just too much. People say, talk to your kids, know what's going on with them. And we did. We talked all the time. We talked about everything. We followed the direction of the therapist and did everything we could to help Ashlyn cope with the traumas she had suffered and the PTSD she was diagnosed with. But at the end of the day, the literal nail in the coffin for her were the things that were said to her over social media. The disappearing comments that are so easy to say behind the safety of the screen. It's easier to bully when you can't look someone in the face, but those comments are so emotionally scarring. Our picture-perfect family that once was filled with joy, peace, love,
Janet, we lost you. Not Janet. Shannon, we lost you again. They can't hear us though.
seeing Sam, and to have kids telling her that it was her fault was just too much for her to bear. I believe that we need to take steps to make our digital world healthier, more compassionate, and teach better understanding on the effects of social media. The world continues to move forward, to change, and to evolve, and we cannot sit by and watch it happen. We need to change with it. It's time to rethink and remodel what we do, educate, allocate time, provide resources and money, whatever we can do to keep up with the ever-changing times in the digital world we live in. We have to do better, and we have to do more. We have to do something because this world we live in isn't going to go back to the way it was before social media existed. We need to work harder, do more, and put more emphasis into keeping the digital environment and the mental well-being of our kids just as safe and protected as we would for their physical environment. Ashlyn's death certainly won't be the last one influenced by the words said behind the screen, and I can only hope that somehow I can be a voice to help influence some kind of change in making the digital world a safer place for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you very much. Janet?
Oh, sorry, I'm crying after that.
No apologies, no apologies.
Hello, my name is Janet Casperson, and I just first want to start off by telling you who my son was. Sam was 16 years old and went to Blaine High School and was in 11th grade. Sam was one of the most amazing young men and an amazing son. He was one of the most respectful teenagers on earth. If I ever asked him to do anything, he would, no questions asked. Not a lot of kids do that this day and age. He was a lover of animals and a very kind heart. He was great with his younger sisters and always very protective of them and I. He was very patient and great with younger kids, even helped as a volunteer coach at a local running group called Kids on the Run, and volunteered at church for the Fall Festival and Vacation Bible School. Sam was also a Boy Scout and loved his summer camps. Money Point was his very favorite camp to go to. He was a very avid fisherman, and he could fish from sunrise to sunset, and finally caught that dogfish 2 summers ago at the cabin that he was trying to catch for 5 summers straight. He was a jokester and had my same sarcastic personality and loud, infectious laugh. He loved making people laugh and would bring everyone up in a room. Sam unfortunately died of suicide on January 2nd, 2020. He lost his two good friends, Jackson and Cole, to suicide 4 months prior to him. And then unfortunately, 6 weeks after Sam died, his girlfriend, Ashlyn, died of suicide. These are 4 precious young lives gone within about 5 months of each other, and all in the same circle of friends. In about an 8-month time span last year, there were 7 teens that died to suicide in the Anoka-Hennepin district alone. Anoka-Hennepin has one of the highest suicide rates in Minnesota. That does not even count the surrounding areas such as St. Francis, which had 4 last year, and Spring Lake Park, which had 1, which happened to be Sam's girlfriend, Ashlyn. There was even another suicide in the last couple of weeks at Blaine High School, 10th grader, which was my daughter's friend. According to a district worker in Anoka-Hennepin, they stated this was not that many deaths due to the size of our district. I'm sorry, but in my opinion, 1 is too many. Although I know a lot of the staff at Blaine High School, and I know their love for the students, it breaks my heart that a local mental health counseling agency reached out to Blaine High School and offered free mental health help to the school and to help counsel these kids, and also talk to the school counselors about what to look for or ask these kids after the second suicide in 2 weeks last year. And the leadership turned it down. They said they would wait for the next one. And then Sam dies 4 months later. They reached out again and the school didn't answer for 6 weeks. As a parent, this is infuriating. So many kids could have benefited from this help. I'm sorry, but this needs to be taken seriously. I don't care what kind of contract you have. If it is help is offered,
I'm sure they'll come back. They can't hear us.
oops. Oh, there.
There you go. It's back. No. Now you're on mute again.
Sorry, can you hear me?
That's all right. Got you again. Every now and then you cut out.
So he was a typical teenage boy that didn't like to share his feelings. And when he did share them, I listened. I got him the counseling he was willing to do, had him evaluated at the hospital. I asked him at one time if suicide was something he'd ever consider. I knew he was struggling after the loss of his friends. And he said, "No, Mom, I would never do this to you." And I believed him. No one will ever understand the pain of losing a child. It's a pain that no one should ever have to endure. Sam and his buddies and girlfriend should all be graduating from high school this year. Instead, I'm seeing all his friends get college acceptance letters and taking senior pictures. It is literally gut-wrenching. As I am happy for all of them, it breaks a grieving mom's heart. I'm not going to lie, being a teenager this day and age is tough. Social media runs the world and runs our kids' lives. I don't know a teen these days that doesn't have Snapchat or Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. There may be even more that I'm not aware of. The problem with all things these days is that you never leave school, even when the school day is done. Everyone is intertwined with social media. Sometimes social media can be a great thing, but let's be honest, a lot of times it's more harmful than good, especially with teens. Kids can hide behind a screen and say such harmful things to each other. They don't even need to see it to their face. It's so easy to say something when it's not to their face. Kids don't understand the impact their words.
Something happened again.
Ah.
You're back.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yep, you're back. Every now and then it cuts out.
Sorry. All right. So Sam had his fair share of bullying on Snapchat. He was told he should have known his buddies were struggling after they died. Can you even imagine the guilt he lived with after they died? He had some anxiety, and when you struggle with anxiety, these thoughts don't ever shut down in your brain. He constantly struggled with, what could I have done? My 15-year-old daughter, Amber, has dealt with an immense amount of cyberbullying even before her brother died. I honestly don't think we were going to make it through middle school. It was so bad. I would receive calls weekly from the principal that Amber was down in the office again, struggling with certain people cyberbullying her. We even deleted the apps on her phone for a while. That didn't even help. About 2 months ago, I noticed she was starting to exercise every day, eating only salads, and I asked her what was going on. She said a lot of people were fat shaming her and telling her to go kill herself. Also told her and her friend that they should starve themselves so they look like models. And this is where eating orders begin. Amber posted a picture of herself on Snapchat about a month after her brother died. She had a smile on her face and actually felt good about herself for once in the last month. Someone posted, "You look so happy without your brother. You should go kill yourself to be with him." Who in their right mind says that? And I'm sure you're wondering why we would not report these people that say these horrible things. Well, guess what? These social media sites and apps make it so everything is anonymous. There's an app through Snapchat called YOLO. You can post questions and then people will answer, and you can post questions and people will answer, and that's where the bullying really comes into key. You literally have no idea who is saying these comments. Snapchat also has a feature, if you take screenshots of any conversation, it notifies the other person. So the person that posts something nasty knows you are keeping that information for evidence. So essentially these kids are scared to even keep the evidence and tell parents, teachers, or counselors. This is unfortunately the nightmare our kids live every single day. After Sam died, I was able to log into Snapchat, his Snapchat account. I become part of a Snapchat group of Sams. They welcomed me in with open arms. These kids were all so scared. All of their friends were dying. I always made sure they were able to come to me. Sometimes teens don't want to open up to their parents. That is understandable. I want kids to be able to come to me if they're struggling. A couple kids even stated they were so happy they had me to talk to because their parents would not listen to their problems, which made me extremely sad. You need to listen to
It's doing this.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Of course, it waits until we speak, All right. So you need to listen to your kids and talk to them. Always talk to them and truly listen. Today's day and age, everyone is so busy, but take the time to listen to your kids. They may be trying to tell you something. I've always told my kids my door is always open, and I've had numerous kids come to me. Sometimes they just need to be heard. My oldest daughter always tells her friends they can literally say anything to me and I will listen and not judge. We need more people to listen. It could possibly save a life. Thank you for listening to my story, and let's make a difference together.
Well, members, thank you so much, Janet and Shannon. It's not tough to share and it's not easy to listen to. I'd like to have comments from members, but we are running a little bit late here. We need to wrap up. I think we'll revisit this in the near future, of course. But much to consider for all of us. I thank all the testifiers for sharing and helping doing what you do to help get the word out there. We certainly understand there's benefits to technology, but it simply has to be used properly. There needs to be a balance. A couple of quick things. Simon Sinek on a TED Talk talked about this, and it was alluded to earlier. I think Catherine or Marie had mentioned it, that he equated it to the liquor cabinets and cigarettes and car keys. What we've done with cell phones and mobile devices, screen time, and certainly social media is we just unlock the liquor cabinet, threw them the keys, and have at it. It's certainly, this is an area I think we can all agree that somehow we had to address it in some way. The Center for Humane Tech is an organization some of you may have heard of that is a former group of engineers and managers, scientists from a lot of Silicon Valley companies that worked on these applications and these phones and all these systems. Maybe some of you watched they've got two pieces out there. One is called Like, from Netflix, it's called Social Dilemma. If you haven't seen it and you have Netflix, look it up. And they emphasize this. These are former employees, leaders of the industry that are confirming and validating the data and the research. And Tristan Harris, if you go to their website, what began as a race to monetize our attention is now eroding the pillars of our society: mental health, democracy, social relationships, and our children. What we feel is an addiction is part of something much bigger. There's an invisible problem that's affecting all of society. So the data, the research from around the world for the last many years, and personal experiences, what we know to be true is true. I have no doubt about it. We are being treated in my more harsh, more direct, we're being treated as lab rats, these uber wealthy corporations that have left all this destruction in a wake, and they try to explain it away with algorithms and the progress towards perfect humanity. We're sentient beings with a conscience, and we should not allow our children or ourselves to be treated this way without some sort of pushback. I hope all of us can work together to do that, just that, in whatever we can, big or small. But this really has to be addressed, and these people have to be stopped at what they're doing. Our best result is we could hope for is some tenacious, greedy lawyer picks up a class action suit and can prove that these companies destroyed lives intentionally. So that's my 3-minute closing of really doing that. But I just think it's so important, and we can have an impact. So members, we'll revisit it. Thank you for your time and patience. Thank you, everybody, for the testimony. And if you have any concerns or comments, you know how to get a hold of all of us. We'll be talking to you all later. So with that, members, we are adjourned until Wednesday. We'll be taking up literacy and some letter, one bill. Thank you very much.